Hello, eighth graders. Welcome to your very last science assignment for your Slaven's career. This assignment is going to be a couple of stages and due on Tuesday, the 26th, and then you won't have any work for the 27th. Before we start this game, it's called Evolution Lab, and these are online activities that you can do to help facilitate your understanding of how organisms are connected and how evolutionists look at what connections to make to figure out if organisms are related. And with evolution, there's a couple of, let's see how we say that, phenomenon that are unique. For example, the origin of flight. So flight originated in different times for different species. So it wasn't like all flying organisms originated at once. So that idea that insects evolved flight, and then little tiny mammals evolved from mammal-like reptiles, from amphibians, and then those little mammals eventually evolved flight within that class of organisms. So there's some traits that we call convergent, and there's some traits that we call divergent. There's some traits that lead and are sort of like common traits, and that's what we're going to work on for this activity. Before we start, I'm going to play the video intro so that we can all watch it together, and then we'll get to the game.
Okay, go to the window, or better yet, step outside. A squirrel darts past. Trees and weeds surge up towards the sky. Birds tickle the air. Get down on the ground and there's more. Worms wriggling, mushrooms sprouting, beetles crawling. There's stuff you can't even see, like bacteria. And everywhere you go on this planet, on land, underground, in the air, and in the water, there's more life to be found. And all of it, even you, is shaped by the most incredible of forces: evolution.
Evolution essentially multiplies majesty by majesty by majesty.
And our understanding of all that majesty, it goes back to the mid-1800s when an English 20-something, a guy named Charles Darwin, got an invitation he couldn't refuse.
To travel around the world. It was 5 years. And that voyage made him into a thinker.
He was just a great naturalist. He saw things out in nature and he asked why.
As in, why is there such a stunning diversity of life? Why are similar-looking species sometimes located on opposite sides of the planet? It was Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace who independently puzzled out a mechanism behind evolution.
Which was natural selection.
Natural selection just means that nature, the natural environment, is what's selecting which organisms survive long enough to reproduce, and it depends on two key ingredients. The first is some way of getting features or traits to be inherited from one generation to the next, which usually means reproduction. The second is variation. If organisms were to make exact duplicates of themselves every time they reproduced, nothing would change. There'd be no elephants, no pine trees, no humans. We'd still just be single-celled proto-organisms. Now, the environment can't support every individual that's born. Maybe it's too dry or too wet for some of them. Maybe all the food's up in tall trees. Maybe there's not enough food, or maybe it's just really cold. Whatever it is, organisms compete for resources, and this is where selection comes in. For instance, scientists believe that a few 100,000 years ago, before there were polar bears, some brown bears got stranded in the Arctic. The few that survived likely had fur coats that were a bit thicker and lighter in color than the others. That would have kept them warmer and helped them blend in with the snow to sneak up on prey more easily. The point is, not all variations make it.
And the things that survive go on to reproduce.
In other words, survival of the fittest, which doesn't necessarily mean the biggest or the strongest.
Fittest, in an evolutionary sense, is whoever has the most descendants.
In the Arctic, the bears with thicker and whiter coats survived more often and had more offspring that inherited the thicker and whiter fur. And gradually, other changes accumulated too, until this population became a separate species from the brown bears. However, if we were to swap out the snow for a forest, having polar bear-like fur would likely be a bad thing. In other words, evolution doesn't progress in one fixed direction. But it's not entirely random either. With so many environments selecting for all kinds of traits, evolution has resulted in the countless species that have lived on Earth. Now, Darwin wrote these ideas down.
He was not a visual man.
So when he did bother to draw something, people took notice, like this image he sketched in one of his notebooks.
It's a tree.
And it tells us how things are related. That is, they all can be traced back to a common ancestor.
That ancestor, the first living organism on our planet, is at the base of the tree trunk. Here's another view of this so-called phylogenetic tree. As life's evolved over the last 3.8 billion years, new species have branched off, leading to entire lineages of different organisms.
Every branching point in that tree is a story.
Stories of global domination, of extinction, stories of beauty, and of remarkable adaptation to an ever-changing world.
I mean, the goal of the Tree of Life is try to understand how every species is related to each other. The breadth of this, that is amazing.
And that's where you come in. In Nova's Evolution Lab, you'll be climbing around the Tree of Life to build out portions of that tree, to see how evolution really works and understand why it matters to you. Like, did you eat a dinosaur last night for dinner? Can you save someone from a venomous snake bite? Or do you have a Neanderthal ancestor? Play this lab. Build the Tree of Life, which is your family tree, and discover just how connected you are to everything that's alive and everything that's ever lived.
Some of you guys asked questions about how humans have evolved and what their role and relationship is in this tree of evolution. So this lab, this online simulation game, is going to help you see connections and how connections are made. So what you're going to do is when you click on this website, that's linked there. If you want to watch the video intro again, great. You're going to click Play Game. When you click Play Game, you'll open a new tab, and in this tab, there are challenges, and you can see I've already been practicing, but I'm going to replay for you so that you can see how we do this. So when I click on the very first challenge, and you have to succeed in each challenge before you can unlock and open the next challenge. This video is this is on training trees. Even the most basic evolutionarily trees reveal deep insights into how different forms of life are connected. So if we play this.
Let's talk tree basics.
An evolutionary phylogenetic tree is a depiction of how different species are related to each other.
We'll start with just one branch, which represents a single species, like cushion sea stars or human beings. The top of that branch contains all the individual organisms of that species, so all people or all cushion sea stars. If we travel along a branch back in time,
You come to common ancestors of species when two branches come together.
Now, let's roll time forward instead. This split point represents the evolutionary moment when a common ancestor species diverged into two distinct species, a process called speciation. As time goes on, you get more splitting, more species, and more biodiversity, until you get a tree that looks something like this.
It's a hierarchical arrangement of how those organisms originated and who they are more closely related to.
A tree isn't a literal timeline, but it does show the passing of time.
More ancient branches occur deeper in the tree, and more recent splits occur closer to the tips.
For each puzzle in this lab, you'll be organizing a collection of species into a tree. Start by using the magnifying glass to learn about the organisms. Explore the species screens and the comparison screen to track down the characteristics or traits that different groups of species have in common. Now, not all traits are useful for analyzing evolutionary relationships, but not to worry, we've made sure to give you mostly informative ones. After you've gathered the information you need, build your tree by dragging species icons and then traits into the center of the screen. In general, the more closely related the species, the more traits they share. Deeper branch points connect species that are more distantly related and have fewer traits in common. When you position a trait, that location on the tree corresponds to the common ancestor where that trait first arose. Earn up to 2 leaves in every puzzle, 1 for completing the tree, and 1 for getting the quiz question right. The more leaves you get, the more complex you can make your fractal tree, which tracks your progress through the lab. After you finish each puzzle, you'll unlock the next one, or open up a whole new mission, and you'll discover something about the living world pulsing all around you.
Okay, so let's replay. Let's get started. I want to show you your first mission is red, green, and gecko. So we'll replay this. We have 2 species at the bottom here. We have the gecko and we have a palm tree. So I'm going to drag the 2 species to the center, and they are connected in a branch. Wait, what? Geckos and palm trees are connected? If we're looking at organisms that have cells with nuclei, lo and behold, that is the common trait that branches these 2 into a common branch. So all organisms with cells, some of them branched off into palm trees, some of them branched off into geckos. So good job, you built your first tree. Here's another species and 2 more traits. And so down here, you can see behind my picture, there's a magnifying lens. And so you can click on the organism. Let's see if I can peek it. So the fly agaric, which I know a lot about this right now because my 7th graders did a project and several kids picked this. The fly agaric mushroom has cells with nuclei. Okay. It is heterotrophic. Remember that in ecology, that heterotrophs have to eat for energy. They have to get the energy from outside of their own body. That's the opposite of autotrophic or photosynthetic. And so although people native to Siberia use this visually striking fungus as a hallucinogen, certain forms of the mushrooms are poisonous, blah, blah, blah. So you can read all about those. There's also the gecko and the palm tree, and then ways for you to compare them. So we can see all of the organisms that we're looking at now have a nucleus. So when I bring up my fly agaric, I want it to branch off, and you'll see that every time I add a branch, this blue color that I added highlights the blue up top, and it tells me that I've done that correctly. So then I look at my descriptions over here. I have photosynthetic autotroph and heterotroph. Well, I just learned that the fly agaric is a heterotroph, so I've kind of put that on the wrong end of the branch. So I'm going to pull the palm tree away, and I'm going to pull the fly agaric away. And I know that both the gecko and the fly agaric mushroom fungi are heterotrophic. And look at there, I've completed my classifications in my categories for the gecko and the fly agaric. And now I have photosynthetic autotroph. Well, obviously that's the tree, and I put it there. And lo and behold, I got them all correct. And it says, now that you've completed the first puzzle, answer the question, is an animal or a plant more closely related to a fungus? When I look at this diagram, all of these organisms are related in the fact that they have cells with nuclei. But the branch splits all the way down here, separating autotrophs and heterotrophs. So this fungi branched off the heterotrophic branch from the gecko. So that fungi is more closely related to animals. Nice job, you did great, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to close the video so I can click next, next. So now you'll see that I've gotten all 3 of these correct, right? Like, so I've already worked through these, but yours will be locked. So in order for you to move forward, you have to play to unlock every single feature to get as far as you get. As you play and unlock, you're going to build your missions. And as you build your missions, you will be able to start building your tree. How am I going to know that you've been successful, and how am I going to know that you are participating? I'm going to post a Google Doc onto your assignment, And with that Google Doc, what you're going to do is when you're done with mission 1 and you want me to look at it, you're going to take a screenshot. And you can screenshot this up here too. You can screenshot the whole thing if you want. So you're going to take a screenshot of this. I'll screenshot out my face. No, I'll screenshot in my face. And you're going to pull this screenshot into your Google Doc so that I can see that you've been successful. Let's see here. Oh, there goes my, there's that. My screenshot got saved here. There are 6 missions. And so you can see here that I've played mission 1, I've started mission 2, and so you can see how far I've gotten, and I haven't unlocked mission 3, 4, 5, and 6. You have Thursday, Friday, Tuesday to do all 6 missions. At the Tuesday's assignment turn-in, you are going to screenshot what you've done. So if this is all you've done for Tuesday, you've done 1.5 out of 6. Your score will be appropriately scaled to be 1.5 out of 6. If you do all 6, you're going to screenshot this picture. So you're not turning anything in screenshot-wise until Tuesday. Now, the other thing is if you get something wrong, you get something wrong, right? Like you can't grow and gain knowledge unless you try and make mistakes and try again and all of that. So even if you get things wrong in here, it's okay to screenshot that and to show me. I'm looking for effort. I'm looking for you to show me what you want me to see from you right now in preparation for your unit of study and evolution when you get to 9th grade. All right, guys, have fun. I will post everything. And good luck.